Good morning, everybody. All right, there we go. Following the futurist and can't seem to figure out much of this future stuff here. So, all right. So I'm Jeff Moag. I'm the content director of the Paddlesports Foundation, and I'm here with my partner Jim Emmons. So many of you know me as a Paddlesports writer and editor, and Jim's background is in publishing also. And he also served for many years as the president of the Watersports Industry Association and kind of fine-tuned the blueprint for industry involvement and growth and safety in the wake sport industry. So Jim's got a lot to offer if you want to catch up with him or me any time. We'd love to talk about what we can do. So the Watersports Foundation was founded in 2004 as an educational nonprofit, and since then we've managed 54 boating safety grants with the U.S. Coast Guard. And we've produced more than 250 videos and have delivered more than 1 billion media impressions over the last 13 years. And we do that kind of in partnership with enthusiast media brands, including our good friends at Rapid Media. So quick word, we're going to talk a little bit about data. Just a quick word about where this data comes from. The main source that we use is the U.S. Coast Guard Boating Accident Report Database. We call it the BARD. And this is compiled from state and local accident reports put together by law enforcement officers primarily. And it covers all types of boating, including power, sail, and paddling. And goes into causes and contributing factors, which can be very useful when you're breaking down the safety aspects. And it's not really optimized for paddle sports. I mean, these models are built primarily for motorboating. So things like, a kayak doesn't distinguish necessarily in the data between a whitewater sea kayaking or sit inside or sit on top. But one thing the Coast Guard can do for us, and it's proved very useful, is they can cross-tab this data at our request. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. Also, we use the Outdoor Foundation Participation Report. As many of you know, is a good resource. Probably not as granular as we would all like it to be, but it does show trends. And one trend that we're seeing a lot across the outdoor industry is that core participation is down. We're seeing participation is still up in terms of number of people that are getting out and paddling, but the number of days that they're paddling, like the gauge of their kind of enthusiasm and how important paddling is for their life, that's kind of diminishing a little bit. So that's a challenge for the future. And then, no account of data for paddle sports would be complete without mentioning the American Whitewater Accident Database that Charlie Walbridge has maintained for many, many years. And that is very useful, very specific, but of course it's siloed into whitewater. So we get some insights there, but where we're seeing actually the most need is kind of more in the entry level stuff. So what does all this data tell us? Number one, let's just get the bad news out of the way first. 1/3 of all boating fatalities in the U.S., and this includes ski boats, includes drunk people on jet skis, it includes 90-mile-an-hour bass boats. 1/3 of all fatalities are paddlers. So just do maybe a show of hands. How many of you out there kind of knew that stat before I just ran it? Okay. So probably about a third or about a half of us familiar with that. So and we want to be clear here that paddling is not inherently a dangerous activity, right? We've all heard the saying that the most dangerous part of paddling is driving through the river, and the stats actually back that up. But anything that we can do to make the sport safer, and importantly, to make it feel safer, is going to strengthen the sport. So, let's see here. Come on. All right. So before I leave behind the doom and gloom, I just want to do one more stat that says it all. And I don't know how easy it is to see the bar graphs here, but the first bar graph is the number of people, paddling fatalities, who had less than 10 hours of experience, and that's 38.8% in 2022. 38.8% of fatalities less than 10 hours of experience. The middle bar graph here is people that had between 90 and 100 hours of experience, and they account for another 35.6% of fatalities. So if you add that up, that is 75% of paddling fatalities, fully 3/4 of people who die paddling. They do it in the first 100 hours, in the first season. Many of them in the first weekend, probably a lot of them the first time they ever do it, right? So kind of raises the question. That's a cute little fact or graphic here I put together. So who's at more risk? Is it Dane Jackson on Jacob's Ladder? Or is it this dude, no life jacket, no spray skirt, holding his paddle upside down, right? So 38% is a pretty scary number, but if we took a survey of everybody in this room, everybody who's taught paddle sports in this room, I guarantee you that nobody's going to say that you lost 38% of your customers in the first week, right? Like I say, like statistics can tell you anything you want them to, but what if 38% of new customers just don't have a good time? What if they feel uncomfortable? What if they're not enjoying the experience because they're fearful or they don't feel welcome, right? So that is what we can work on as an industry to do better with. So that brings us to the confidence gap. And how are we doing on time? We're on
another 5.
About 5 minutes. All right. So what is the confidence gap and why do we need to bridge it? Okay, so confidence, very simply, kind of a short catch-all term for what new paddlers need to do to continue and grow in the sport. And there's kind of 3 other C's. We'll call these the 4 C's, but three other C's that kind of fit into this. And the first one is competence. And that starts, we're not talking about class 5 skill sets here. We're talking about just a command of the basics, you know, starting with how do you hold your paddle, and you just kind of grow from there. Next is community, and Nikki talked about this in our panel yesterday. We just can't stress it enough. If we want people to keep paddling, we have to give them people and groups to paddle with, right? So clubs and specialty retail historically have led the charge, and I would say it's more important today than ever before to keep that up. And the last one is comfort. And so this kind of starts with the basics, having the right boat. That's part of being comfortable. Gear that fits, clothes that keep you warm and dry, okay? All those things are important, but it's also about the other 3 C's here: the competence, the community, and the confidence. If you get all those things together, then it kind of feels like you found your place in the world, right? Paddling is your thing, and that is what leads to retention and growth in the industry. And so the last thing, I don't have it here on the slide, but the last C I would say is the choir. And I just bring that up because you guys are the choir, right? I'm not telling anybody here what they don't already know. But the biggest thing that we can do as the choir is to preach to everyone, invite everybody into the fold, and especially folks who come to the sport through channels other than specialty retail. Come on. Not very good at pushing buttons. Okay, so paddle sports is growing. Nearly 35 million Americans went paddling in 2023. 17 million of them use recreational kayaks or stand-up paddle boards. and large sporting good chains and box stores accounted for the majority of recreational kayak and paddleboard sales. And I would say that would just add to that the direct-to-consumer increasingly is another factor here where people are becoming exposed to the sport. So that kind of leads us to the elephant in the room. The majority of new paddlers aren't buying boats from people who can give them the 4 C's, right? People that can give them the confidence, the competence, the comfort, and the community, right? They're not buying from this group, they're buying from somebody else. But there's a role for all of us to help those new paddlers find their way. And I included this quote, great quote from Matt O'Brien up at Offshore Chicago. And he said, "We see plenty of social media posts from folks that are having fun in $300 kayaks. So it doesn't make sense to tell them that they're doing it wrong, right? What we need to do is we need to tell them how to have more fun, right? And how to be safer and more comfortable in the way that they do it." So that has been our focus at the Water Sports Foundation. Pretty strongly, working to engage the big box, working to engage the brands in the safety piece of paddle sports. And we've got some great lessons and stories to share from that effort in the breakout, and I hope that some of you will join us there. It's going to be a twofer with Peg Phillips of the National Safe Boating Council. So I will pass the mic to Peg for a preview of the paddling program. Thank you all.
Before we do that, thank you so much. The Water Sports Foundation, Jim and Jeff are not only members of the PTC, but they are also sponsors of this event, and you'll be seeing a lot of them. They are going to be in room D, which is the back corner, when we do the breakout, okay?